The Vanishing at Portlock, a village abandoned overnight. Imagine living in a small, tight-knit fishing village. Beautiful, yet isolated, surrounded by towering mountains, thick forests, and the endless waves of the Alaskan Sea. Life in Portlock, a tiny settlement on the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, should have been peaceful. But beneath the beauty, something sinister was always lurking. Portlock wasn't just abandoned, it was erased by fear. The story begins in the early 1900s, when villagers whispered about strange figures seen at the edge of the forest. Hunters and fishermen would sometimes return home pale and trembling, refusing to explain what they had seen. Others never came back at all. Their bodies were sometimes discovered days later, torn apart with wounds so violent that no bear or wolf could be blamed. What could rip a man to pieces with such force and then vanish without a trace? As time went on, the sightings grew bolder. Men out chopping wood would hear heavy footsteps following them, too deliberate to be an animal. Women washing clothes near the river reported low growls echoing from the tree line. And children? They whispered about red eyes glowing in the forest at night, watching from the shadows. Some villagers thought it was a bear. Others swore it was the Nantinak, a terrifying half-man, half-beast creature from native Alaskan lore. This creature was said to be larger than any human, with immense strength, able to move silently and kill without warning. The elders warned, never stray into the woods alone, but people still disappeared. By the 1940s, the fear had reached a breaking point. A fisherman was found brutally killed, his body mutilated beyond recognition. Not long after, several hunters vanished in the same area, their gear scattered as though they had dropped everything to run. The villagers had enough. Families gathered what little they could carry, boarded their boats, and sailed away from Portlock, leaving behind their homes, their possessions, their entire lives. An entire community vanished overnight, as if the land itself had expelled them. To this day, Portlock remains a ghost town. Crumbling houses and rotting docks sit quietly under the weight of silence, untouched since the 1940s. Hunters and adventurers who dare to visit report the same chilling sensations. The feeling of being watched, footsteps trailing behind them, and sudden bursts of dread so powerful they abandon their trips. One man who camped near the old village swore he woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of something breathing outside his tent. Slow, heavy, and deliberate. When he unzipped his tent, no animal was there. But in the dirt, he saw massive footprints that led into the darkness. No one ever rebuilt Portlock, and maybe that's for the best. Some places in Alaska are beautiful to look at, but deadly to live in. The villagers believed the land was cursed, haunted by something too powerful to fight. And if the Nantinak is real, it might still be there, lurking in the forests, waiting for the next brave soul foolish enough to settle down in its territory. Portlock isn't just abandoned, it's a place erased by fear itself. The Kushtaka, Alaska's shape-shifting demon of the wild. If you ever find yourself lost in the endless wilderness of Alaska, surrounded by rivers, glaciers, and thick forests, you might think the greatest danger is the freezing cold or the wild animals. But according to Tlingit legend, there's something far worse waiting in the shadows. Something not quite human, not quite animal. Something called the Kushtaka. The name means land otter man. At first, that doesn't sound frightening until you hear what it's capable of. The Kushtaka is said to be a shapeshifter, a creature that can appear in the form of an otter, a human, or a terrifying mix of both. Its fur glistens like wet stone. Its eyes burn with an unnatural glow. And its voice, if you can even call it a voice, can mimic the sound of your loved ones. Imagine walking alone along the riverbanks, trying to find your way home, when suddenly you hear it, the familiar voice of your mother calling your name, or the desperate cry of a child screaming for help. You run toward the sound, your heart pounding, only to discover it's not them at all. It's the Kushtaka, waiting for you. Some legends say the Kushtaka drags its victims into the freezing waters, drowning them before tearing their spirit apart. Others claim it transforms its victims, twisting them into more Kushtaka, cursed to roam the wilderness forever. But the most disturbing detail, victims never realize they've been lured until it's far too late. Hunters tell stories of strange figures standing just at the edge of their campfires. One hunter in the early 1900s swore he saw his brother walking toward him in the night, except his brother had been dead for years. The figure's face was almost right, but the eyes were wrong. Too sharp, too animal. When the hunter blinked, the figure was gone. Fishermen along Alaska's coast claim they've heard Kushtaka cries echoing over the waves, human screams for help that lead them further from safety. One man even admitted he followed a voice deep into the woods, convinced his friend was in trouble. He stumbled upon what looked like an otter standing upright, its mouth curling into something too close to a smile. He ran. He didn't stop until he reached the village. The Kushtaka isn't just a ghost story. It's a warning. The elders passed it down to keep children safe, to make sure no one wandered too far alone. But locals swear it's more than a tale. It's real. And if you're unlucky enough to meet one, you'll never make it back to tell the story. What makes the Kushtaka so terrifying isn't just what it does. It's what it represents. In Alaska's unforgiving wilderness, a wrong step, a moment of trust in the wrong sound can cost you your life. The Kushtaka is that fear come alive, a creature that preys on your instincts, your emotions, and your deepest sense of safety. So next time you hear a familiar voice in the woods of Alaska, ask yourself, is it really someone you know? Or is it the Kushtaka luring you to your end? The black-eyed woman on the Dalton Highway. The Dalton Highway cuts straight through some of the most remote and unforgiving land in Alaska. It's over 400 miles of cold, empty road, stretching from Fairbanks to the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay. Truckers call it one of the loneliest highways in the world, and with good reason. There are no towns, no gas stations for hundreds of miles. Just endless tundra, towering mountains, and silence so thick you start to hear your own heartbeat. Drivers on this road often say the isolation itself can drive you mad. But there's another reason many truckers dread the Dalton. The black-eyed woman. The first stories came from long-haul truckers in the 1970s. Men who spent weeks on the road began reporting the same thing. A lone woman standing by the highway at night, her thin body wrapped in a pale coat, her long black hair hanging loose. From a distance, she looked stranded, helpless, maybe even freezing to death. But up close, she's something else entirely. Truckers describe pulling over, rolling down their windows to ask if she needs help. The woman walks slowly toward the cab, her face hidden in shadow. But when she lifts her head, they see her eyes. Completely black, no whites, no pupils, just empty darkness staring back. Some drivers said she vanished the second they blinked. Others swore she tried to climb into the truck without opening the door. One man claimed he picked her up, letting her sit in the passenger seat. She didn't say a word. She just stared straight ahead with those bottomless eyes. And when he finally looked away, she was gone, disappearing into thin air. What's even more chilling is that many of these truckers didn't know each other. They came from different places, different years, yet their stories match almost perfectly. Locals believe she might be the spirit of a woman who froze to death on the Dalton during a snowstorm. Others think she's not a ghost at all, but something far older, something that takes the shape of a human to lure travelers into danger. One retired trucker shared a story that still makes him shake. He was driving in the dead of winter, snow pounding against his windshield, when he saw her, standing right in the middle of the road. He swerved to avoid hitting her, his truck sliding dangerously close to the edge of the highway. When he looked back in his mirrors, there was no one there. Another driver wasn't so lucky. His rig was later found abandoned on the Dalton. Engine still running, doors wide open, but no sign of him. To this day, people wonder if he picked up the black-eyed woman and never came back. Travelers say if you're driving the Dalton at night and you see a woman standing by the side of the road, whatever you do, don't stop. Don't look too closely and never meet her eyes. Because once you do, you might never leave that highway again. Mount Marathon's Phantom Runner. Every 4th of July, the town of Seward, Alaska, hosts one of the most brutal foot races in the world, the Mount Marathon Race. Runners climb nearly 3,000 feet up the steep, rocky face of the mountain, then hurl themselves back down at breakneck speeds. It's dangerous, it's exhausting, and it's a tradition that's been around for more than a century. But for some, the race is more than just a challenge. It's haunted. Locals talk about a phantom runner, a ghostly figure who appears during the race, pushing competitors to their limits, sometimes even leading them into danger. The first story dates back to the 1920s, when a runner stumbled back into town hours after the race had ended. His clothes were torn, his face pale as snow. He swore he had seen another man ahead of him on the mountain. A tall runner dressed in old-fashioned. They leave at all. The Kenai woods are vast, wild, and unforgiving. But that cabin, with its rotting walls and silent windows, might be the darkest corner of them all.